Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas from the Drive Pink Dialogue. I'm your host, Santa Claus. I'm here with my co-host, the Gingerbread Man. And today, we brought some presents for those on the nice list. And if you're on the naughty list, you can turn this off now. This is not for you. Because we are thinking about reminiscing and remembering the 10 best moments of Inter Miami's season. And I will just say I had a blast preparing for this. My friend Gingerbread Man, how are you feeling on this very magical, lovely Christmas Eve?
I'll be honest, for Inter Miami fans, Christmas did come early. So this might feel a little bit late, but we're here. We're celebrating Christmas. We're talking about Inter Miami's top 10 season moments. And I can't wait to do this. It has been so much fun preparing, as you mentioned already. We've had a fun season. It's been up and down. It's been enormously roller coaster-esque, but I've enjoyed every moment of it. And what better way to end the season than to just celebrate the holidays? So a very Merry Christmas to you, Santa Claus.
Thank you. I think I'm going to be pulling fur out of my mouth for the entire episode, but that's okay.
You got the short stick this time around. I got lucky with my gingerbread man.
We're gonna power through. And you know what? We're gonna end this early because I have a big night ahead of me.
Yeah,
doing that thing that I do on.
You got to go
Eve.
Distribute the gifts.
Exactly. So let's start with my favorite group of people, Inter Miami fans. I'm sorry, I have to get rid of the accent, but I think it may creep back in as we go through this.
You're really enjoying your little costume. It's fine.
Okay. Today, we went back and looked at the entire season, and we watched highlights, and we remembered, and we reminisced, and we found the 10 best moments, games of the season, and we ranked them 1 to 10, and now we're going to relive them as a fun little Christmas podcast that I think we all deserve after what was a season that had a ton of really, really fun moments. And again, I mentioned already, getting to relive some of those moments over the course of today while we were preparing and watching some of the big goals and stuff was a tremendously fun and exciting experience. And so I'm really ready to talk about it.
I am as well. I think we found it slightly difficult to keep it to just 10, but we have, I think, done a great job. In case we've missed something that you guys remember, let us know in the chat. But we have tried to do a holistic job with this. And I'll be honest, when we were looking at the results, I was like, was this game that special? And then I rewatched it and I was like, wow, this was a lot of fun. So I think we can get straight into it. Top 10 moments of Inter Miami's 2025 season. Santa, kick us off.
Number 10, May 24th, Inter Miami draws the Philadelphia Union 3-3. Let's take ourselves back to this time frame because, as you guys, I'm sure, remember, this was the worst period of time of Inter Miami in the Messi era. They were coming off of a 7-game stretch that saw them lose 5 games, 1 win, 1 draw in 7 games. The worst stretch that we had under the Lionel Messi banner of people. The last time we had a stretch like that, it was Phil Neville getting fired and the team moving on. We had just lost to Orlando City the week before 3-0, and it could have been much worse. I think we were at an all-time low with this team. We were talking about changing coaches, and something needed to happen to spark this team. And then we go play Philadelphia, who we had already beaten at home, but at this point in the season had established themselves as one of the contenders for the Supporter Shield and one of the best teams in the league. And so to go into Philadelphia, which has traditionally been very hard to get wins at, against a great team when we were in dire need of a momentum shift in our season, this game really was a catalyst. And as you guys may remember, in the previous game after Orlando City, Messi spoke to the media for like the first time since he came to Inter Miami. And then in practice, we heard a lot of the players talking about personal accountability and stepping up and playing better. This was sort of a huge game to turn around the season and lead us and give us some momentum going into the Club World Cup. And it's exactly what happened. And it wasn't easy, and it was kind of some messy magic late that brought this team out of its funk. Philadelphia goes up 2-0 in halftime in this game, and it is looking again like Inter Miami is just going to get beat up by a better team. They had a ton of opportunities in this game to really kill it off. They do not convert. Inter Miami gets one back from Tadeo Allende in the 60th minute. They're down 2-1, and okay, maybe we have a chance in this game. And then Philadelphia shuts the door with a third goal in the 73rd minute. And it really does feel like Inter Miami season is falling off a cliff, and this is just another sort of giant bit of our fall with no end in sight. And then the end in sight came in the 87th minute, a free kick from Lionel Messi. Now, I remembered this free kick all season, but I didn't really quite remember how impressive it was until I rewatched it today. The goalkeeper for Philadelphia, and it was not Andre Blake, it was a young kid, is standing about 1.5 yards away from the side of the post. And Messi says, "I'm still going to beat you to the far post." And he does. He whips it around the wall, and the goalkeeper, who only has to stick his hand out to block it, still can't get there in time. It's whipped into the back of the net by Lionel Messi. It's 3-2. We're still losing, but now we have some momentum. And then Talasco Segovia with a banger in the 95th minute to equalize. Messi kind of drives, looks like he's about to lose it, just gets a little bit of a touch to put it into Segovia's path. Segovia then has the perfect placement into that top far corner, and Inter Miami gets a 3-3 draw sort of at the death in that game. But it was, considering the opponent, considering the moment, and considering the stretch they were on, it really did feel like a momentum changer for Inter Miami.
Yeah, right before this game, I remember Ty Baribo was on a bit of a run. He scored 2 goals in this game. Quinn Sullivan getting the goal in the early 7th minute. And I still remember watching the game and thinking, boy, here we go. This is the end of Javi Mascherano's time at Inter Miami, and what a sad way to go. Up until this point, Inter Miami had performed well against the lesser oppositions and beat teams that we were supposed to beat, but now the wheels were falling off the car, basically. And coming off that Orlando loss, the humiliation that we faced against our rivals, everyone thought that this would be a bounce back game, especially Messi coming out and saying what he did. And then you go 2-0 down, then you go 3-1 down. I think this was huge in the grand scheme of things for our season to save Javi Mascherano's job.
Bacon.
And yeah, and without that goal by Talasco Segovia, without that beautiful free kick by Messi, I think Inter Miami's season might have looked completely different. I know we didn't get the 3 points, but against the future the future Supporter Shield champions, this was a massive win away from home, and I think did a world of good for our confidence. So I think this deserves the rightful spot as number 10 on our top 10 moments for Inter Miami this season. Season-changing moment for me.
Yeah, a couple other notes to mention. They go on and beat Montreal in the next game, and then they have that 5-1 win against Columbus, and then they go into the Club World Cup with some momentum. So for them to not drop this game, but to bring something out of it and gain some momentum, I thought it did them a world of good going into the Club World Cup. And then the other thing is, I think this was the biggest moment we ever saw Messi say, "I'm the captain, and I'm going to show it on the field."
Yep.
And off. And so I think from a captain's perspective, this was like Lionel Messi's finest moment. So definitely deserving of a spot on this list. Number 9, March 16th, Inter Miami goes to Mercedes-Benz Stadium for a revenge opportunity against Atlanta United. Now, we all understand how Atlanta United's season went, but this was, I think, the 4th or 5th game of the season. They had just broken the transfer record for Emmanuel Latelath. They brought back Miguel Almiron. Everyone was thinking this Atlanta team was going to be really, really good. And, of course, you have the added context of Atlanta eliminated Inter Miami from the playoffs in the first round. And a big part of that was Brad Guzan's performance in that playoff series. Rewatching the highlights today, he had a big game in this one, too. He had a couple big saves, and then there was a couple other moments where Inter Miami hit the post or hit the side netting or something to that nature, where it was like, man, this felt exactly like it did in the playoffs, where Inter Miami was the better team, but Atlanta took advantage of 1 or 2 opportunities. They get a goal, and Inter Miami is creating opportunities, but they just can't make it happen, whether it's because they miss by a half a yard or Brad Guzan makes a big save. But do you remember what happens at the end of that game?
I do remember what happens. Fafa Pico, one of the few times that he comes in clutch. I believe it was Jordi Alba who puts in a lovely cross.
It was Federico Redondo.
Federico Redondo with a brilliant cross. And the ball just creeps into the corner of the goal with a beautifully placed header that I don't think Brad Guzan was saving, even if he was Superman. It was sort of the world had stopped in that moment as soon as Fafa Pico hit that header. And boy, did Inter Miami need that. And I know Atlanta's season just fell off a cliff after that. Inter Miami decimated them in the next return leg when we played them. But this was the juju breaker. Atlanta had been our boogeyman team up until that point. The narrative was basically this is revenge game. And then you start the game, Latela scores a free header, and you're like, boy, this is a team we're never going to beat. And at that point, they looked like the favorites in the East as well. But Inter Miami comes in clutch, and who else but Fafa Pico, an unlikely hero, but one of the few precious moments that he delivered for us this season. Glad he got his highlight reel. Fantastic moment.
Just to add some context to that, Fafa Pico started game one for Inter Miami of the MLS season. He got hurt in like the 7th minute, first home game for Inter Miami. Got hurt in like the first 10 minutes. Left the game. This was his first return moment for Inter Miami. So we had not really even gotten a chance to see Fafa Pico. He comes off the bench. He gets that header perfectly placed to the far post, and we thought, man, we're about to get a clutch superstar with this kid. I know he's not a kid, but Fafa Pico was like the whole reason we brought him in was to be the guy to make the big sort of hustle effort, be in the right spot type of play. And that's exactly what he did, delivered this 2-1 victory. I think it was cathartic for Inter Miami to beat not just Atlanta United, but Brad Guzan. And even when Brad Guzan, I thought had a pretty good game in that one. So huge moment, especially given the context. If you put your mind back where you were then, I think this is absolutely deserving of one of the best moments of the season.
Also, last minute goal, always fun to watch. Winner. And also, I think this was Lionel Messi's first goal in the MLS to begin what would eventually be his Golden Boot run. So I think up until that point, Messi hadn't scored a goal in the MLS, and he kicked off against Atlanta.
Yeah, because he missed a couple games early because of an injury, and they were kind of keeping him out to make sure he was healthy for the CONCACAF.
Yeah, we were playing the CONCACAF Champions Cup, yeah.
And I should mention that Messi goal was really, really unsurprisingly fantastic. He makes a defensive play to get a steal, then jukes out a defender, and then chips Brad Guzan for it in the 20th minute. So that game was 1-1 for most of it, but Inter Miami was just pushing, and Guzan was sort of rejecting a lot of it. But it was Fafa Pico, the new signing, that helped him break through. Number 8, November 23rd, Inter Miami Eastern Conference semifinal has to take a trip to TQL Stadium to play FC Cincinnati, a team that kind of beat us up in the regular season. They beat us 3-0 at TQL Stadium. They beat us, it was 0-0 draw, but I thought they were the better team at home in Chase Stadium this season. Last year we went there, we lost 6-2. We lost the year before that, 1-0 with, even in the Messi era. So other than sort of that miracle U.S. Open Cup comeback win in the U.S. Open Cup semifinal in 2023, Inter Miami did not have a lot of success against Cincinnati at TQL Stadium since Cincinnati became good. And I will be honest, that is the closest that was the most I ever felt Inter Miami was going to lose in the playoffs this year, was going on the road to TQL Stadium. They change it up. No Suarez in the starting lineup. He missed the game before because he was suspended for sort of throwing his back leg back in game 2 against Nashville. Gets suspended for game 3, and Inter Miami wins game 3 against Nashville 4-0. They could put him back in the lineup. Javier Mascherano doesn't. He sticks with Silvetti, and Silvetti rewards him with an early play in the 19th minute. Silvetti with a beautiful cross in traffic to Lionel Messi, who has a header that, again, he's so good at headers, which doesn't make any sense considering his size.
By the way,
Messi
great ball from Silvetti.
Yeah. And then Inter Miami in the second half kind of breaks it open, and you felt this Miami team might just be a juggernaut at this point.
Yeah. I think this game is so symbolic because before this game we spoke about whoever wins this game is probably going to be labeled as the favorites to win the MLS Cup or at least the Eastern Conference Championship, and then probably be the ones who will host. Inter Miami going in as I think in our minds the underdogs, probably the biggest test that Inter Miami has had this season, have not beaten Cincinnati. They have decimated us once already this season, and you're just thinking to yourselves, this is going to require something very special for Inter Miami to win. It wasn't going to be a walk in the park by any means, but also Inter Miami would have to pull a rabbit out of the hat to beat this Cincinnati team. With their ferocious front line, I didn't think Inter Miami was going to contain them. So Inter Miami would have to outscore them. Lo and behold, we keep a clean sheet against Cincinnati. But for me, this was the coming of age for a lot of players. For Javier Mascherano as a coach, I think this was his biggest decision that he's made the entire season. Dropping Luis Suarez in favor of Matteo Silvetti was massive, required a lot of guts. And if it had gone wrong, he would have himself to blame, or at least the media would blame him for not playing his one of his biggest players in the most clutch game. Matteo Silvetti, the pressure of the world on his shoulders, replacing Luis Suarez, has a assist and then has a goal, which just seals his coming of age, his arrival on the Inter Miami stage. And then Tadeo Allende as well, just taking the world by storm in the playoffs. One dagger, a second dagger. It changed the way Inter Miami played games thereafter. I think we had two more games after this, and we just completely changed our play style, or at least maximized how we would want to play. It looked fantastic. It didn't seem like Cincinnati was going to trouble Inter Miami at any point. And talk about a blowout. This time Inter Miami gave Cincinnati the run for their money. And what a way to go into the conference finals. And for me, for all intents and purposes, establish themselves as the favorites to win the MLS Cup.
I think you put it beautifully. Coming of age for Silvetti, who has, I think, what ended up killing off the game in the 57th minute with a nice curler off a Messi assist. Javier Mascherano for the decision to go with Silvetti, and then also Tadeo Allende, who gets a brace to close that game out 4-0. That was when we said, okay, maybe Allende is like a difference maker. Had a couple goals in the Nashville series, but it was just sort of him being in good form. This was, he's scoring multiple goals every game. This is huge. And he, of course, continued that into the final.
And the second goal kind of summarized how he was playing, because he just brushed off the defender, looked up, stared at the goalkeeper, and then just buried it with disdain. And I was like, oof, he's playing with a lot of confidence. And that was the sign that this is going to be a different Tadeo Allende in the playoffs for me.
Okay, moving forward to number 7, August 2nd, Inter Miami defeats Necaxa. It's 2-2, but they get the extra point on penalties. This was one of the craziest games, and I will be honest, I did not remember this game particularly well until we started rewatching it.
I mentioned this to you, and you were like, oh, okay. And then I described what happened in that game, and you're like, oh, yeah, this was important. Yes.
I rewatched we talked about it, we watched the highlights, and I can't believe this game did not stand out as one of the most memorable of the season. Inter Miami loses Lionel Messi. Well, let's even start before that. This is the Leagues Cup Phase 1, and dropping any points could have been fatal. If you're going to not win, winning in penalties was an absolute must. So dropping 2 points was going to kill your tournament. Now, keep that in mind. Inter Miami loses Lionel Messi in like the 7th minute. He leaves the game with an injury. And so all of a sudden, they look really good, but now they lost their best player. They continued to look really good and capitalize with the Talasco Segovia goal in the 12th minute. He takes a nice step over, and then, again, great placement to put it in that top right corner. Gives Inter Miami a 1-0 lead. Just a few minutes later, Maxi Falcone gets the softest red card I have ever seen. It's the worst decision Inter Miami got all year. It is the worst refereeing decision I saw from any referee all year this season. He gets a red card by kind of blocking out the defender.
Yeah.
And the defender kind of just like falls, and they call it a dog-so penalty, even though Rocco Rios Nova was coming out for the ball. So Inter Miami goes down a man, and all of a sudden, what looked like an easy win turned into what looked like an easy loss. Necaxa in the 33rd minute gets a goal. And all of a sudden, it's 1-1. Necaxa has the momentum, and Inter Miami is down a man and looking like they're in trouble. And I will remind you, a single drop point is going to cost you your tournament, or 2 drop points would cost you your tournament. Then in the 60th minute, a second yellow card and an expulsion for a Necaxa defender. Both yellow cards earned, I thought, by Luis Suarez, just frustrating the defender.
Veteran play.
Very veteran plays, both of them. And so now it's back to even 10 on 10. And I thought, okay, we have a chance. It's 1-1. We're now even on players. And if you went back to the first 15 minutes of this game, I thought Inter Miami was the better team. Not to be. Necaxa takes the lead in the 81st minute, 2-1, and we are absolutely in trouble at this point. But the guys didn't quit, and they earn a set-piece opportunity in the 91st minute. Rodrigo de Paul puts a nice ball into the box. This was, I think, his second game with Inter Miami. Jordi Alba gets a header, not something we talk about a lot, puts it past the goalkeeper. It goes to 2-2. We salvage our opportunity to continue in this tournament. And then, of course, in penalties, Rocco comes up with a huge save. Luis Suarez gets the finisher, hits off the post. It was a nervy shot, I'll be honest. But it goes through. Inter Miami gets a second point for this game and then ultimately goes through in the Leagues Cup because Jordi Alba and Rodrigo de Paul combined for that finisher. This was one of the craziest games of the year, and I can't believe it wasn't top of my mind this entire time.
I think you should also mention that this year's Leagues Cup, the way it was structured, meant that every single point would be crucial because you're not just playing against your group, you're also competing against every single other MLS team. So every single point mattered. And up until that point, as soon as Messi got injured, as soon as Maxi Falcone conceded that red card, I was like, it's not Inter Miami's day. We're gonna be knocked out of the Leagues Cup, and this is over very quickly. By the way, Telasco Segovia is going to be featured a lot in these 10 moments, and I was very surprised. Both him and Allende had some very clutch, important goals throughout the season. You all know my bias towards Telasco Segovia, but I was very surprised to see that he always popped up with a goal or an assist at some point or the other during the entire season, and then. Yeah, getting that second goal at the end by Jordi Alba. We constantly talked about who's going to be the leader on the pitch when Messi's not there. Jordi Alba, both Rodrigo de Paul, Jordi Alba show up. Great header, by the way. He doesn't score many of those, but great header. And after that, it was Rocco Blocco taking us to 2 points and securing Inter Miami's entry into the next round of the Leagues Cup. Very, very important game. And I genuinely did not remember how this had gone. But it was really fun to watch as well.
Kept us alive in that tournament for sure. Okay, why don't we just stay right there and move to number 6, July 30th. Inter Miami beats Atlas 2-1 with a last-second goal from none other than Chelo Wegan. In 2024, we had this moment where Leo Alfonso, we're down 2 men. We're down to 9 men. Leo Alfonso scores a game winner. Yannick Bright releases him at Philadelphia, and it's like one of the most craziest moments we've ever seen. This felt like the same version in 2025 because it's Chelo Wegan showing up in the box when he has no business being anywhere near there, and he is the lead man, and he gets a ball from Messi. Scores in the 96th minute. They were only planning 5 minutes of stoppage time. Gets the game winner. Inter Miami wins that game 2-1. And again, just like everything we've talked about for the last game, a single drop point could have ended Inter Miami's tournament, and 2 would have. Inter Miami gets a 2-1 victory because Chelo Wegan, of all people, is there at the right moment. I also want to give a lot of credit to Lionel Messi because he makes an entry pass to Suarez, does the pick and roll. Suarez gets it back to him. He dribbles past the defender, and then he finds Chelo centrally. But yeah, Chelo Wegan, the hero in this game.
You missed a very crucial point here. By the way, I think this was Inter Miami's first game in the Leagues Cup. So
and Rodrigo de
you had
Paul's
to,
debut.
yeah, and Rodrigo de Paul's debut, you had to start on a high note. That wasn't a goal. That was not given a goal when it went in. The second goal Chelo Wegan scored. It was a VAR decision that intervened to get Chelo Wegan's decision given as a goal. So Inter Miami could have potentially drawn that game if it wasn't for the intervention. So that was huge. We had to sit on our seats for, I think, 3-4 minutes just waiting for VAR to make their call, and it went in Inter Miami's favor. He was onside, but at that time it wasn't given a goal, and it was called offsides, I believe. So again, the Leagues Cup started off with a few shaky moments, but Inter Miami found a way to win. And I think that just lent itself to being a really fun experience. Unfortunately, we weren't able to finish it off in the final, but these games were crucial for Inter Miami to even get to the final. And getting past that group stage was very important. And Chelo Weigand, the only goal that he scored this entire season, I believe. And
Maybe.
yeah, had a highlight reel that he can now speak about to his kids and grandkids. So well done.
Yeah, and came from Lionel Messi also. Messi also had another big moment to score the first goal where he has another dribble and finds
Segovia
for the 10th
again
earlier. Yeah. Okay, moving on to number 5, August 27th, sticking in the Leagues Cup semifinal this time. Inter Miami takes on Orlando City. Now, I will remind you guys, Inter Miami lost to Orlando City big time in both of their games, both home and away. This was as big of a boogeyman this year as we had alongside Cincinnati. Not only that, they played Orlando City after the Leagues Cup Phase 1 before the semifinal and still got throttled. So it wasn't even like a different portions of the season where things had everything had changed. It was like 2 weeks later, Inter Miami plays Orlando City. They do get the game at Chase Stadium, and I will just tell you, that game was not going Inter Miami's way. They are really struggling. Orlando City's up 1-0 early. They had a couple huge missed goals. Angulo had an opportunity that was one-on-one with the keeper, and he pushes it wide. There was another moment, I believe, by Ojeda where he hits the crossbar. Inter Miami's really struggling in this game, and then everything changes in the 75th minute. Brecalo, who's playing as a fullback in this game for Orlando City, Jordi Alba pulls the ball forward, puts in a cross to Tadeo Allende at the back post, and there's just a little bit of a tug from Brecalo, but it's a dog-so, technically not dog-so, but it is a foul in the box. It is a yellow card. It's his second yellow card. So he's sent off. Inter Miami goes up a man in the 75th minute, but it was also in the box, so it's a penalty. Lionel Messi buries the penalty, and all of a sudden it's 1-1 for the last 15 minutes of this game, and Inter Miami's up a man, and they take advantage. 89th minute, Jordi Alba to Messi, to Alba, back to Messi for just one of those moments, and then Messi has the winner. Inter Miami scores a third from Talasco Segovia to really put the dagger in the 91st minute. But that was the nature of the comeback, the timing of the comeback for it to all happen in this one short burst, for it to be a cup semifinal, I thought made all of this so important. And again, Inter Miami's season at this point, they hadn't won the CONCACAF Champions Cup. They were sort of teetering from whether we're going to be a good team or not. And then to pull this out, get to the Leagues Cup final was, I thought, just a huge moment.
I think as you were describing it, 2 thoughts came to mind. A lot of our top 10 moments are knockout games or games in a tournament. They're not all MLS games, which is fair. I think that just adds to the jeopardy and the chaos. And then second, I don't think this game was particularly outstanding for Inter Miami. I thought we did get bullied for quite some time. They did go up first, scoring that goal right on the half, and I was like, here we go again. Inter Miami's going to capitulate against a very good opposition. But the game went in our favor, and it almost feels we have to put this on the list just because we beat our city rivals in a tournament. Orlando could have gone on to win the tournament if they'd beat Inter Miami. They could have potentially beaten Seattle. They were very good at this point in the season. So Inter Miami getting the better of their rivals, and in this way, especially having lost 2 games already, was huge. It felt good, and I think it's more of a revenge game that we have to put this on the list. But it meant a lot, I think, at that point in time.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, let's move to number 4. June 23rd, Inter Miami goes through to the round of 16 in the Club World Cup with a 2-2 draw against Palmeiras. Now, I understand that game didn't end in the most spectacular fashion, but I don't know how any Inter Miami fan couldn't have been on cloud 9 with what happened in the second half against Al Ahly, what happened against Porto, what happened for the first 80 minutes against Palmeiras. I just don't think anyone took Inter Miami seriously, and they proved that they deserved to go in and be one of the last 16 teams in the World Cup. And they did it going up against potentially the best team in South America, and they went toe-to-toe with them. And there were some huge moments, which we're talking about in a second, but I just think symbolically for an MLS club to not just get a win, which Seattle and LAFC did not do in this tournament. I don't think they even got a point, if I'm remembering correctly. So for Inter Miami to not just
I think LA did get a
win,
point, but
maybe after they were eliminated, maybe. For them to go through, I thought was just like this unbelievable accomplishment for an MLS club. And this game was pretty fun to watch too, I will admit.
and if you allow me, can I describe the highlights of this game? Because this one particular goal is very important to you, and you've constantly harped on about it. And I'll be honest, I've dismissed a lot of it.
Hold on. Let's start with the first half, the first goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Because,
So I'm gonna give you the highlights for this, right? Inter Miami starts the game really well. I think it was 50-50 at that point in time. Palmeiras was putting a lot of pressure, but Inter Miami was also playing that game, not afraid to just take the game to Palmeiras. It wasn't like we were sitting down and absorbing pressure. Palmeiras has a couple of corners that Inter Miami defends really well. And then I believe it was Redondo who boots the ball long. Luis Suarez controls it beautifully and just puts the ball in Allende's path, who's making that quintessential Allende counter-attacking run. One-on-one with the keeper. And at that point, Allende was in good form. And he just buries it. And Inter Miami goes up 1-0. And you're thinking to yourself, wow, we might actually top the group. And for context, this was going to determine whoever wins what the ranking in the group is going to be. So this was very important. And Inter Miami's toughest game at that point in the Club World Cup, they go up 1-0. That's, I believe, in the 16th minute. Palmeiras tries to take the game to Inter Miami. They're trying to create opportunities. Clearly, they have a lot in the tank. And that, I think, is the theme of this. Because the first half, Inter Miami was able to go toe-to-toe physically, athletically. And in the second half, it felt like Inter Miami's stamina was dwindling. And I should remind you, we didn't actually have the likes of Yannick Bright to shore up the midfield at this point. We were struggling with a lot of injuries. And I think we went the entire game without a single substitution defensively. But there's one player who shows up in that moment, and you call this magical. Luis Suarez takes the ball in the middle, does a shimmy, beats one man, does another shimmy, gets slightly lucky with a deflection, but gets the ball into space, and then a beautiful finish. Nobody thought this was going to happen. Inter Miami goes 2-0 up, and that's when our petrol fuel in the car ends. I think, for me, that game ended there. So let's talk about the next point.
You know, Palmeiras, they came out really hot first 8 or so minutes, and they were pressing really high. And Inter Miami countered by pushing Sergio Busquets back deeper, and that kind of just took it out of them. They didn't really have a response to that. So all of a sudden, Inter Miami sort of under pressure right away. Then they figure it out, and then it's a ball game. It's a ball game. The goal you mentioned for Allende. Yeah. The goal you mentioned for Allende, Palmeiras actually has a guy tear his hamstring trying to chase down Allende. Was never going to catch him, so apologies to that guy. But Inter Miami gets the 1-goal lead, and then it's, as you mentioned, 16th minute. That entire first half, like they were in that game. That was an even game, and Inter Miami has the 1-goal lead. Going into the second half, continues to be a game. Inter Miami looks like they can and will win.
For it.
And then you get the Luis Suarez moment. It comes in the
65th minute, I believe.
65th minute. You said he had a shimmy and then another shimmy. I think he had a shimmy, then a shake, dribbles past two guys, and then he goes up against the center back. That was just to get through the midfield.
Yeah.
Then he goes up against the center back, has the fake out, and then crossover to create more space, completely jukes out the defender. And then you have Weverton, who's this veteran, great goalkeeper from Brazil, comes out to try and block it, and he just hits it 100 miles an hour right through his hands. He actually gets a finger or two on that shot, but it's hit so hard with so much power that there's no way he's going to stop it. It hits the back of the net. Inter Miami's up 2-0 against Palmeiras. Just beat Porto. Got a point against Al Ahly, and they look like they're going to top the group. And like in that moment, you're thinking, man, they
could
might
go to the semifinals.
they might go, yeah, they could win another game after this.
Yeah.
They brought then $60 million worth of players off the bench, and Inter Miami, it felt like ran out of steam. And the entire group stage felt like they were going full throttle. It was leave nothing out there. And so to see them run out of steam at the very end, it almost wasn't a surprise, but it was like we're still proud. Like that was still very something to be proud of because they left it all out there. And they still get the point they needed to go through. I mean, we were watching the other game for Al Ahly and Porto, which was happening simultaneously. And whatever happened there would dictate whether we needed to get a win or not a win, but a draw, or if a loss would still see us through. And so for us to sort of have that moment and the momentum against, again, I'll remind you, probably the best team at that time in South America, Palmeiras.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they beat Botafogo as well. So Palmeiras might have beaten Botafogo and went to the semi-final, but that was beautiful. That was a beautiful game. And yes, a bittersweet ending kind of spelled the end of our Club World Cup run because we had to go up against PSG. But I think the way the team fought, the way they took the game to the best team on the continent, perhaps at that point, it really showed the mentality and the passion that the team was playing with and how they wanted to go for it. And you said, leave no stone unturned, leave everything on the pitch. That's how we were playing it. And I really enjoyed it. For me, the Club World Cup ended there. Let's just talk about nothing more because that was beautiful.
And even just to like move forward, like I get that ending with a draw put us up against PSG, but PSG was the best team in the world at that point. I think even with a draw, you're like, I will take my chance against any other team in that tournament at that point. Maybe not Bayern Munich, but again, like you were ready to go up against anyone in that particular moment. So,
and you felt proud of your team. That
very
up
proud.
Until that point in that season, I think we struggled to find moments where we could say we were proud of the team, and that was, I think, for me, the standout performance.
Let's rewind the clock 4 days before that for number 3. June 19th, Inter Miami defeats Porto 2-1. That was the must-have game. And I will just say the two of us, we did not know what Inter Miami was going to be on the world stage when that tournament started. It did not look good against Al Ahly in the first half. But in the second half, they absolutely showed they belonged. But Porto is a European power.
Yeah.
Not... Al Ahly, part of this tournament was figuring out who actually belongs on this stage and who doesn't. And so for Inter Miami to go up against Porto and have a chance to take 3 points and do it, I thought was magical. I'll remind you guys, Game 1 and Game 3 were in Miami. Game 2 was in Atlanta, which has been sort of a house of horrors for Inter Miami. At least last season it was. So for them to go get the not just the result, but the performance that showed we're just as good as Porto. They gave up an early goal. I think it's the 7th minute, or rather in the 5th minute, Noah Allen has kind of a really, what I would consider a pretty soft penalty right at the edge of the box. They call it a foul, or they call it a penalty. It's another one of those VAR decisions that the referee certainly didn't think was a penalty in the moment. It is a very soft foul. It is a penalty. Samu buries it in the 7th minute. And so you're thinking, man, we're playing well, but moments change everything. And Porto was gifted a moment. And so as they settled in through the first half, you're like, okay, they're playing with this team. But it is unfortunate that they got kind of a huge blow against them early on. But then everything changes at halftime.
And going into this game, the question mark was, okay, we played well in the second half against Al Ahly, but can we repeat that performance? This is going to be another test, and this is going to be the main test to determine whether Inter Miami can actually show that they belong here. I think when we did our own research, we realized, and this may sound wild to some people who watch European soccer, but this may have been the best opportunity that Inter Miami had to win 3 points, by the way, because Porto was the weakest team that Inter Miami was going to play in their group up until that point. I think they weren't playing in particularly good form. They had played an entire season by that point. So it was interesting for me what the mentality of Inter Miami would be going into this game. Are they going to sit back, hunker down, and absorb pressure? But no, Inter Miami was there to play. They showed that they might have to switch up the style a little bit, play a little bit more counter-attacking, but they weren't afraid to go out and play expansive when the opportunities arose. That fifth-minute foul again was one of those, this is going to change the nature of the game. But then that second half, Messi took over, and Inter Miami just decided that we're going to show the world why we're the favorites to win the MLS Cup.
And they didn't take much time. 2 minutes into the second half, Chelo Wagon kind of brings. The ball kind of gets brought into that right hand corner. Chelo Wagon puts a cross into Talasco Segovia with a really nice finish. And again, Talasco Segovia showing up in a huge moment. 47th minute, Inter Miami equalizes. 50th minute, there was a Lionel Messi free kick opportunity from deep, and he gets a chance to practice. And
I think it's straight after kickoff as well, right? That opportunity in the 50th minute where he gets that, yeah.
Maybe. He puts it just wide, but you could tell he got it good. He hit it well. Yeah. And then 2 minutes later, in a much better position, Inter Miami gets another foul call. And this one Messi didn't miss. 54th minute, Messi free kick goal. They go up 2-1. And then at that point, I kind of expected Porto to just bring the onslaught. And you know how a game can be when you have the lead and you just want that final whistle, and it's tick, 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 tick.
You're just begging for the final whistle to blow.
But what I will say is Inter Miami did not let Porto just put them under incredible pressure from that point on. They still played the last 10 minutes. They, were under it, but it wasn't like they were creating or they were giving up huge opportunities. I think there was only one Samu header that goes wide as like a clear-cut opportunity for Porto in that second half. And like Inter Miami saw it out in a really professional, comfortable, calm way, even though it didn't feel calm at the time because we were about to do something incredible. And Inter Miami gets a 2-1 victory against FC Porto, something that nobody in the world thought was possible. And I'm not sure if that was the first game of the tournament that was really like that could happen. But I think it may have been. It was the first game of round 2 or the second legs. Inter Miami beats Porto, and like all of a sudden it was like anything might happen in this tournament. Really. I guess Flamengo, I think, beat Chelsea the day before, but still.
But it was deserved. Inter Miami was the better team over the course of 90 minutes, which is exactly what people didn't expect. They thought that Inter Miami could smash and grab a win or something like that. No, this was Inter Miami going toe-to-toe.
I don't think anyone predicted Inter Miami to smash and grab.
Winning,
I think people thought it was going to be 3-0 comfortable Porto victory.
And I think it was another one of those moments that existed in a vacuum in the grand scheme of things, because obviously Inter Miami wasn't really going to win the Club World Cup, but it was just a moment of pride. And you're like, is this happening? Is this a dream? And they played well. They existed with the best of the best. And we couldn't ask for more from our team at that point in time. And the more we talk about it, the more excited we get, because that was such a phenomenal time this season where Al-Ali, great performance in the second half. Porto, we take the game to Porto, win. And then Palmeiras, unfortunate that we run out of steam. But all 3 games in Miami showed that they belong there. And that's why this ranks so high as the moment in the season. I don't think we can put this number 1, but this deserves to be top 3. Absolutely.
That whole experience with the Club World Cup was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It really was. And for Inter Miami to get that opportunity and for us to be able to cover and all that stuff, I thought was just really, really cool and special. And being able to relive it today with all was pretty fun as well. Okay, moving on to number 2, best moment of the season. April 9th, second leg of the CONCACAF Champions Cup quarterfinal against LAFC. First leg in LA, Inter Miami goes down 1-0. Because of a goal by Nathan Ordaz, and it was the first loss of the season for Inter Miami. It was kind of a rough performance. They didn't play as the better team, and it was the first time Inter Miami looked like they maybe had a little bit of a weakness in their armor. As we mentioned earlier in this episode and plenty of times this year, they started the season with 8 wins from their first 9, and the one draw they got was a game where they went down a man in the first half and still got a draw. So they didn't really know what defeat tasted like. They lose 1-0 to LAFC, go home for the second leg. Okay, it's 1 goal. It's not that big of a deal. They have the away goals advantage, but it's okay. And then it started to feel not okay because Aaron Long scored a goal in the first 10 minutes. And all of a sudden you're down 2 goals. You need 3 because you need to win on away goals. The away goals rule is in effect. That I thought it was over after 10 minutes. I really
Yeah. There was only one thing at the back of my mind. Monterrey, again, in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. And I thought Inter Miami just dug themselves into a hole in that first leg. But it wasn't entirely over. But as soon as that goal went in, it was such poor defending. I think it was Noah Allen who was keeping the player onside. It was rudimentary. Yannick Bright, yeah. Amateur stuff. And it was just really bad to concede that early. And you're thinking to yourself, 3 goals against this LAFC side. And you can't concede another. If you concede another, this is game over. But fate had other plans. And this was going to be I wouldn't say perfect performance, but Inter Miami rose to the occasion eventually.
It was near perfect from that 10th minute on. We saw we talked earlier about Luis Suarez's goal against Palmeiras, and I think might be the best individual goal of the season. But the first goal from Lionel Messi in this game might be its competitor. Yeah. He dribbles through traffic and then fading to his left, hits a ball to the far right corner into perfect placement with a ton of pace. It goes 1-1 in the first half. Inter Miami at halftime knows they need 2 more, but I think getting 1 really helped. And then they go into that second half, and it's like pressure. They're putting the pressure on. They're poking. They're prodding. There's a moment where, ultimately they get the goal that equalizes it on aggregate. But again, LAFC
still not in Inter Miami's favor. Yeah,
it's a chip cross by Noah Allen. Redondo goes up for it. Hugo Lloris goes to try and block a Redondo touch, and they both miss it, and it kind of just dribbles into the far post, but it counts. 2-1 Inter Miami for the game. They still need another one. A few minutes later, there's a header by Luis Suarez that puts Inter Miami up, except it's offsides. It's called offsides, and it felt like, man, that could have been the moment. But ultimately, Inter Miami gets a little bit of luck. 84th minute, Marlon, the center back for LAFC, has a cross come in, bounce off the floor, bounce up, and hits him in the hand. It's a handball in the box. Lionel Messi takes a penalty, makes a penalty. They get the 3rd goal, but that still wasn't it. Denny Bouanga with 2 great opportunities after Inter Miami goes up 3-1 on the game and 3-2 on aggregate. And Oscar Ustari makes maybe his 2 best saves of the season against Denny Bouanga, gives Inter Miami the victory, and they go through to the CONCACAF Champions Cup semifinal.
Yeah, and there were, I think, 2 offside calls. The one that you mentioned with Suarez, and then right before Messi actually scored, there was another one on a free kick that Messi took very quickly that went in.
Yeah.
But it was given.
It wasn't offside.
Yeah, it wasn't given. Sorry, it wasn't called a goal. And I was like, oh, this is Inter Miami's trying. They're poking, they're prodding. Are they going to be able to do it? I think luck favored us a little bit, got the penalty, had that mistake from Lloris. But overall, Inter Miami, again, showing when they go for it, they look fantastic. And it required the full 11 players to actually get that result, as you mentioned, with Oscar Ustari also putting in a couple of really good saves. And at that point, he was playing with a lot of confidence. He had some really good performances. Huge. And I think it kind of dispelled the ghost of the Monterrey past at that point in time, because it could have been another one of those occasions where we kind of bottle it in the first leg, and then the second leg we're not able to compete because we try and take the game to them and then just end up playing in the opposition's hands. No, this time around it was different. And I think that's the best I felt at that point in the season. That was a phenomenal feeling to win the way that we did against all odds in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. It was brilliant. It was gutsy, and it was a fantastic performance.
And it was messy magic at its finest, I think. Like, you go down, you get yourself into this impossible situation, and then he just kind of pulls you out of it with a couple goals that were
Yep.
huge and timely and clutch. So, one of my favorite games of the season. And again, unlike when you're winning and you're tick 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 tick, it's when you're losing. It's the same thing. You're running
Just
out of time. You're running
keep
out of time.
going,
You're
yeah.
running out of time. Keep
You're
going,
like
keep
one
going,
extra
keep pushing.
minute, ref. One
Yeah,
extra
yeah.
minute, ref.
Keep
Just
keep pushing.
yeah.
Keep pushing. You don't have time to waste on the ball. Okay, and then they finally break through in the 84th minute, and that was an incredible feeling. Okay, number one. Should we go over a couple honorable mentions before we get to number one? Because I think we all know what
I
number
think
one's
so.
going to be, but there was a
Yeah, I
couple
think
other games
everyone
worth-
knows.
worth mentioning.
But absolutely.
There was the kickoff for the Club World Cup against Al Ahly. Inter Miami gets a 0-0 draw. They get a point. That first half was as bad as it could be, and it did feel like we don't belong for 45 minutes. And then for 45 minutes, it looked like we were the better team, and we absolutely belonged. And so a roller coaster of emotions that ends with a 0-0 draw, but it was a wildly entertaining game, as wildly entertaining as a 0-0 draw could be. And I think at the end of that game, we thought, okay, we're ready to go into Porto and see if we can win this game.
And by the way, we did a 3-hour pregame show right before that game, I
Yeah, we
believe,
did.
or 2-hour. And and probably we were delusional by the end of the 90 minutes because we were just spent. But that game was more about the vibes than anything else. We didn't score a goal. Nothing major happened as such. The first half, we looked like we're going to get absolutely played off the park. Al Ahly looked scary good. Oscar Starry, again, with a clutch performance in the Club World Cup, kept us in it. And then the second half, Inter Miami just switched it up, and we didn't even make any changes as such. It felt like
Well, they
the
did
players
make
said to
changes.
themselves,
They took Aviles off at halftime. They moved Ian Frey to center back, and then they put Chelo Wegan at right back. And
Yeah.
that did seem to make a big difference.
but it felt like the players told themselves, we have to play like we belong.
Yeah.
And that's where the mentality shift happened at halftime. But it was just the festive atmosphere around it. The Club World Cup, first time we're in that tournament. It was just such a feel-good moment. And that's why I wanted to keep that as an honorable mention. I don't know if it deserves a place on the top 10, but that was the start of something special. So you have to recognize it.
Absolutely. And listen, Messi had a shot late that it took a really, really
Yeah.
impressive block by Mohamed El Shinawi. Hope I got
Maybe.
that right. To make the block, and that could have been the game winner. And if Inter Miami had snuck away with 3 points, it would have been on this list.
Absolutely.
A couple other games I thought were worth mentioning. Early on in the season, Oscar Stardy against Charlotte comes out and gets a red card in the first half, and they go down to 10 men against a good Charlotte team. And right after halftime, Tadeo Allende with a banger of a shot to give Inter Miami a 1-0 lead that they just kept. And so they got 3 points despite going down a man early. It was the second time, that was like the 7th game of the season in the MLS. It was already the second time we had a red card in the first half. And so for Inter Miami to pull away with 3 points because of a banger by Tadeo Allende, and the team could hold on for the second half, I thought that was like a pretty impressive moment. But there were 10 better moments in this season.
Yeah, and I don't know if this one stands out for me the way the others do, but this was the Zaha game, I think. This was the first time Inter Miami was going up against Wilfred Zaha. You remember Ustari basically taking Zaha out, getting that red card, and then you're like, oof, we have Rocco in goal. Wilfred Zaha is going to absolutely destroy us. But somehow Luis Suarez puts a really good ball into Tadeo Allende, who finishes with aplomb, and Inter Miami had to fight their way to the victory in that game, but it felt good because this was against a difficult, very good Charlotte team and 10 men. It was almost like that Philadelphia game where we ended up winning 2-1 last season with 9 men on the pitch. Maybe not the same, but still, it's very important to win when you have one less man because it builds character. And I think that was very important early in the season to just get the mentality of the team going against such a good opposition.
Yeah, and at that time we were undefeated, and it felt like we were invincible. And
Yeah.
then you're like, oh well, maybe that's going to be over now, and then it wasn't. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then the last honorable mention, we beat NYCFC at Citi Field 4-0 in September, or maybe October. Anyways, we were cursed against NYCFC. I offered on here to shave my head if we beat NYCFC. And
I
you told me
saved
that
you.
that's silly. And so I didn't end up
Doing that.
agreeing to it. But we never thought Inter Miami was going to beat NYCFC. And they beat them 4-0. That game was pretty close. It was 1-0 for much of that game. But then NYCFC takes out Thiago Martins, which I thought really opened the floodgates. And then there was a trio of late goals. And Inter Miami kind of broke the curse against NYCFC 4-0. Really fun night. Really fun night to do the raw reaction.
Yeah, nobody realized that Inter Miami is going to beat, or nobody expected Inter Miami to beat NYCFC with 4 goals and keep a shutout. Up until that point, every time Inter Miami went up against NYCFC, it was either a draw or a loss, and it would always be like a 1-0, 1-1 sort of a game. So to beat them the way that we did, this is the team that we have the statistically worst record against, at least up until the start of the season. So nobody expected this to be a victory, and the way it was a victory was phenomenal. But for me, this was the first chapter in the NYC saga. Getting that 4-0 win, I think, really helped us getting that 5-1 win in the playoffs.
I was going to say, yeah, confidence going into a game against NYCFC in the playoffs.
The writing was on the wall, and Inter Miami, I think, gained that confidence in that 4-0 victory. Very important for the season. And as you said, a curse-breaking moment, which is always important. So this year, it looks like we beat 2 curses against Atlanta and NYCFC. So feels good and a very important moment for the season and for our playoff game against NYCFC, because we were in the head. And I think this was towards the end of the season as well, closer to the playoffs. So it was definitely on the minds of the players.
Okay, let's get to number 1. And I normally you do the honorable mention to build suspense for what's number 1, but I don't think there's any suspense. Inter Miami on December 6th wins the MLS Cup with a 3-1 victory against the Vancouver Whitecaps. They get a great start to that game. Tadeo Allende breaks. Rodrigo de Paul puts Tadeo Allende through. Mateo Silvetti's making the run. Allende puts the cross in. Eddie Ocampo goes to make the block, and he blocks it right into his own net. It's an own goal for Inter on Vancouver for Inter Miami. They go up 1-0 early. And then it was all Vancouver for a very long time. That goal came in the 8th minute. Basically, from that moment until the 70th minute, it was all Vancouver. Vancouver finally gets the breakthrough in the, I believe, 60th minute. They have another opportunity in the 62nd minute that goes off both posts. And then there's still a third opportunity on goal that Inter Miami kind of survives. So it's 1-1. And then Inter Miami kind of finds that one special moment that we could only define as Messi magic, where Lionel Messi spots just the smallest bit of carelessness from Andres Cubas, hops on it, gets the steal, puts a ball forward. Rodrigo de Paul makes the run, takes the touch into the box, goes one-on-one with Takaoka, and he buries it in the far post. Inter Miami goes up 2-1, kind of crushes the soul and momentum that Vancouver had. And then in the 95th minute, Tadeo Allende seals it, and Inter Miami became MLS Cup champions. If there was ever a tick, 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 tick game, it was that in those final 20 minutes. And all of a sudden, everything that Inter Miami's worked for the last 2.5 years comes to fruition. The final MLS game at Chase Stadium, Dry Pink Stadium, MLS Cup champions. The final game of Jordi Alba and Sergio Busquets' career, MLS Cup champions. Inter Miami gets the star. I mean, it was as storybook as it gets. I don't even think it was a competition for what was the best moment of the season, honestly. It had to be the MLS Cup final.
Santa Grace, could you please tell me one more time that Inter Miami is the MLS Cup champions? I just want to hear it one more time.
Inter Miami is the MLS Cup champions. Ho, ho, ho.
The best gift we could ever get, the best end of the year moment. There's probably not a single moment on this list that was easier to fill than this. Inter Miami finally putting that first star on their chest. We talked about the game. The game was back and forth. It was squeaky bum time for a long time in that game. Credit to Vancouver. Andre Cubas, up until that moment, was probably the best player on the pitch. And Messi's just like, kid, you're not all that. And moments win tournaments. And Inter Miami on that day had the moment, had the luck on their side. And yes, may not have been the perfect game, but my biggest takeaway from that game was early in the season, if Inter Miami went down against such a big opposition, we would have capitulated and conceded like 5. They stuck in there, they grinded out the result. We somehow went up, which I think at that point was deserved because Inter Miami was trying to play that expansive style. Once Vancouver figured it out, it was a lot of gritty work by the defenders. And then I think it took that special magic moment from Messi. But as soon as Bright and Segovia were on, I didn't feel like Vancouver had anything else to offer. It was Inter Miami's night. It was Inter Miami's season. And we are MLS Cup champions for 2025. The best moment in Inter Miami history. Not just the season, in Inter Miami history. This was all that we had been promised as fans. This was all that the front office was aiming to achieve. And the fact that we can now lift the trophy just vindicates everything. So loved it. It was phenomenal. And what a day. What a day.
What an incredibly fun day I had preparing for this. Watching all the highlights from these great moments was incredibly fun. So, like, I'm really glad we did this. And it is like a reminder that while there's super frustrating times following this team and following any soccer team, like, the great moments are really, really great. I thought there was a lot of Telasco Segovia moments that
a lot of
were in
Tadeo
these games.
Allende.
A lot of Tadeo Allende, a lot of Rocco, surprising amount of Rocco.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Messi and Suarez and Jordi Alba, making the big plays as expected. Heck of a season. Heck of a season
Heck
for
of
Inter
season.
Miami. And I think everyone on that Inter Miami team ends up on the nice list for this year.
Absolutely. And not just on the nice list. They deserve a good off season. They've worked really hard. And if we had not finished the season with a cup, this would have been a completely different conversation. You and I would not be dressed like goofs. Santa would not be coming to our chimney because it would not have been a nice moment at all. The fact that we won that MLS Cup, we deserved that MLS Cup, was brilliant. And it's just so fun to relive some of those top moments. I had forgotten how many good moments we had actually had as a team this entire season. And sometimes you just have to look back to remind yourself that you have to make the most of the small moments that come your way. And Inter Miami season was full of them, and we just gave you 10. So again, if there's any moment that we missed that you think needs to be on the list, please mention it in the chat and we'd be happy to consider. But this was a fantastic season and glad that Inter Miami finished it with a trophy. What a gift for Christmas for the rest of us.
All right, Saur, you know that I have a lot of gifts to go deliver tonight and a lot of cookies to eat and a lot of milk to drink. So
I still need to bake the cookies, by the way, so you got to wait a few minutes.
well, I wasn't actually coming to your household tonight,
Oh.
so I wouldn't worry about
Am I not getting a gift?
it. You might be on the naughty list. I'll have to check my my list. My elves are, this thing is falling off and getting fur in my mouth. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays, and hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season, and we will see you guys again soon. Till then, Merry Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this and have a wonderful day.